5 things that you need to know. Challenge of moving from corporate to consulting. Hello and welcome to your Consulting Business Podcast. My name is Russell Pearson and this is episode number 43. Today on the podcast we're going to be talking about the challenge of moving from corporate to consulting and the 5 things that you need to know if you're about to take that journey. And even if you are currently on that journey, these things may come in handy. I've got 5 of them. There are a whole lot more, and really this just scratches the surface of making that transition. I've got entire programs that focus on the transition from corporate to consulting, but hopefully these are going to be incredibly helpful for you. Now, the first one, I'm going to look over here to my handy little list, is really the concept of the smartest person in the room. So you are the smartest person in the room. That's usually the reason why you've left where you've left. There's all sorts of reasons, but you come with expertise, which is excellent because it means that you've got something to actually work with. You've got something to sell. But here's the thing. You're going to find that you probably are going to be the smartest person in the room, especially now with this external perspective. You can suddenly see things that other people couldn't see from the inside, especially when you're working with other corporations. And so the trick for you as the smartest person in the room is not to try to be the smartest person in the room, because if you want to sell opportunities, if you want to be purchased, if you want to be engaged, right? If you want to actually work with other people, then you want to not necessarily be the smartest person, because selling is not telling, which means it's not telling them what they're doing wrong. It's not telling them what they need to do. It's working with them to have them understand that you get what's going on for them so that they can engage you to help them. And then you work with them afterwards to help them get the results. And often helping them with those results is not actually telling them how. So many consultants that I've seen over the years have been telling people what they should be doing, and what ends up happening is the business starts to rely on that consultant, which actually disables the business. So you need to be enabling the business, you need to be guiding and helping support and helping them put frameworks in place so they don't need you. At the end of the day, you want to be able to step away from a business, leaving it better than when you found it. Now, you might not be a consultant with a business, but whoever is engaging you, you want to leave them better than when you found them. So number 1 is you might well be the smartest person in the room, but it's not your job to be the smartest person in the room, right? You need to work with people. It's about collaboration. Now, the second one is that as you move from corporate to consulting, you will discover that you get to do everything. You are the business, which means that you get to do the fun work, you get to engage in the best projects, you get to engage in the things that you want to do, and you're going to also have to be the finance manager and the sales manager and the marketing manager, operations manager. You might even be the HR manager if you start engaging employees, which means you're going to actually have to be the manager of those people as well. So there is a transition point when you're going to have to be doing the majority of things. And now, this is not a bad aspect of the transition. In fact, I think it's a very, very empowering one, because you start to learn what are the aspects that you need to know about in the different areas of the business and what is important to make the business run. Again, there are programs that we can work with you on to help you uncover what that actually looks like, so you don't land in a business that you've started and go, oh my God, all these things I didn't know I needed to do. What do I do now? It can be quite overwhelming. But you are the business, which means that if it's going to happen, it's going to be up to you. If you don't do the thing, it doesn't get done. So there's not someone else that you can blame or you can offset the work to until you get to a point where you start engaging a team around you. Again, you shouldn't be blaming anyone in your team. Just put that one to the side. Freedom is number 3. You have the ultimate freedom, which is fantastic. It means that you can do what you want when you want, which is excellent. And it's a fantastic part of being a consultant. We get to define our own hours, we get to define who we work with, and we're not beholden to anyone. Now, unfortunately, there is a double-edged sword with just about everything I'm talking about today, which is with that freedom comes unlimited choice. And having unlimited choice means that you can often have a blank canvas, very much like this, and you go, all right, well, what do I do with this blank canvas? Well, you can do anything with this blank canvas, which means that you don't have those usual guidelines that you may have had in the corporate world, whether that be KPIs or briefs or whatever it might be. If we're not in school anymore with a rubric, this is like, what are we going to do? Anything we want. So making sure that we make planning more of an important step and making sure that we find people to plan with, because if we've never done the thing that we're setting out to do, we are probably not the best person to plan how we're going to get there. So my recommendation is certainly find a mentor or someone you can work with to help you plan out something that not only succeeds in the thing that you're trying to accomplish, but also makes a realistic plan so that you can take the right steps. Number 4, let's have a look down here. That's right, it's process. Now this is an interesting one. You will have process. If you're an expert, you've got things that are process that you've used before. But someone wanting to engage you as a consultant in their organization is often going to want to have process and things that they don't currently have. So just working off the back of SWOT analysis and things like that are very basic is probably not going to be enough. You need to bring your perspective of the world and bring your intellectual property into the mix so that people can start differentiating how you're going to help them in a different way than they can help themselves. There was a little story of me years ago, way back in the day, over a decade ago now, where I was speaking to a prospect about an opportunity, and they really liked what I was talking about, but they were asking me the roadmap from here, and I said, well, that's something that we will tailor together, and that's something we'll come up with after this next step. And they said, okay, well, that seems okay. But then they went and spoke to someone else who had a very clear process. Now, that process was not detailed. It wasn't about how to do the thing, but it was letting them know that there were concrete steps that they were aware of. And while I had concrete steps in the back of my mind, I didn't realize that I at least had to give them 3 or 4 steps so they knew that I had a plan, that I actually had done this before, and I have considered this scenario outside of this one situation. Right, so showing that you have process is a really useful thing. Walking people through broad steps, we're going to take this step, then this step, then this step, is a really nice way of letting people know that they are in safe hands. Number 5, and the final one, is all about, what did I say? Don't productize, right? So there is an absolute want for most experts to take what they know and package it up. And there is all sorts of organizations out there training new entrepreneurs on how to commercialize what they do. Now, whether it's them saying it or it's a misunderstanding through the process, people are coming out the other side and they are deciding that productization is how they're going to commercialize. They're going to make money by taking what they know and actually putting it in a package and then offering it that way. The challenge when you start your consulting business is that you don't yet have the language to be able to speak to the client and speak to them specifically in their own brain. So talk to the words that they're thinking, not the words that they're saying. And that will come over time. So if you define what the product is before actually really clearly understanding the client, most of the time it's going to be a 50-50 or a roll of the dice as to whether they are willing to go ahead with you. But if you collaborate with a client and you actually design and tailor the concept, even if you've got the expertise and all the frameworks behind your back, but you actually design and tailor the concept with that client, it is far more likely that it's going to go ahead for 2 reasons. Number 1 is the client now feels they've got ownership of the process because they've been involved in the creation of it. And number 2, we can actually very easily meet their wants, not just their needs. So specifically why they want to engage us in the languaging of that process. And, we're working with Bob, and at the end we might call this Bob's package, but it's very much specific and tailored for him. Now, productization should happen in business, but it should happen far later. We're talking about maybe after 100 engagements, we start to get a real trend on what it is that our specific market wants. And the broader our market is, the harder that is, by the way. But we get a trend on what they're specifically wanting, and we can start to really language that up so that when we offer it, they go, you know what, it's almost like you went into my head, you pulled the words out, and you understand me. So people feeling understood is an area of consulting that I think is not only has been lacking over the years, but in this day and age, it is something that people are really crying out for. People want to feel understood, and if you are showing that you're understanding that person, usually from actually taking the time to understand that person through listening to them, using their language, understanding them, and actually potentially showing them a roadmap of here are the simple steps forward, it goes a very long way for that person deciding that you are the individual that they want to work with. Again, we've just scratched the surface of this thing. There is an entire program. In fact, the Forge Business Program is the one I run, specifically for consultants who are looking to engage more clients. If you're interested to talk to me about that, just reach out. I'm easy to find. But I'd also like to speak to you on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, feel to... words, people. Russell Pearson needs to learn to speak. But you can go to LinkedIn and you can find me, Russell Pearson, SSL, the way Russell should be spelt, and connect with me there. I'd love to have a conversation about your transition, or maybe the transition you've had and how your business is going right now. I just like to meet consultants. I love working with consultants. I love collaborating with them, because at the end of the day, they're just really, really smart people. They have masters and doctorates and all sorts of experience that they can bring to the table to help the world around them, and that's the reason I do it. It's the stone that gets dropped in the pond, sends the ripples out, which means that I'm actually doing something good for not just myself, but for the entire environment around me by helping these people help other people. So if you're interested in starting that business, reach out to me, engage with me on LinkedIn. Maybe the Forge is right for you. We'll have to see, but it's not about that. It's about creating these pieces of content, for instance, on social media, on YouTube, on podcasts, to make sure that I'm helping you make the transition in the best way that I can to help you take your next step towards a successful consulting business. Until next time, my name is Russell Pearson. If you want to have a look at what else we're doing, go to russellpearsonprograms.com. There is a free downloadable you can get there that is all about getting more clients. I think that's a very useful tool. And you might want to subscribe here on YouTube, or if you're not watching it on YouTube, you can also subscribe where you're listening to this podcast. Till next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.